Book 1, Phoebe and the Little Red Trike. Phoebe gets a new trike. Phoebe was just 3 and feeling very grown up. She'd been given a brand new and very shiny little red trike for her birthday, and she had spent the last few days pedalling furiously round her garden. She had even ventured outside the back gate to the path that ran behind the houses in the road. The little red trike was outside the back door, as Phoebe had gone inside for her lunch. It was a warm, sunny day, and the little red trike was half asleep in the sun. He was wondering what adventures he and Phoebe would get up to that afternoon, when all of a sudden the door burst open and Phoebe came rushing out. She sat on the little red trike and began pedalling furiously round the garden, almost as if she was in a race. Having only just avoided crashing into a plant pot, the little red trike shouted out, "Hey, slow down, not so fast." He puffed, "I've only just woken up from a wonderful daydream." "What were you dreaming about?" said Phoebe, slowing down very slightly. "I was dreaming about my older brother," said the little red trike. "He used to tell me all about his adventures." "Did you know," he continued, "that he used to race? He was very fast." "Wow," said Phoebe, "I'd like to go really fast one day. It must be really exciting." "Well," said the little red trike, "if you slow down for a minute and let me get my breath back, I'll tell you some of his adventures." Phoebe was feeling a bit puffed herself and stopped in the shade of the old apple tree. "OK," said the little red trike. "If you're sitting comfortably, I'll begin." It all began one day when a boy called Bradley went into a bike shop in South London and started looking at some racing bikes. He was about 11 or 12 at the time, and he had just grown out of his old bike. Actually, not only had he grown out of it, but it was also very nearly worn out. The little red trike continued, "You see, even at the age of 11, Bradley was already very fast." "Wow," said Phoebe, "I'd like to be like Bradley one day." "Shh," grumbled the little red trike. "Let me tell the story." "So," he continued, "Bradley was wandering around the shop looking at bikes, and my brother was looking at him." "I should tell you something about my brother first, though," said the little red trike. "You see, my brother was a very special bike. When he was growing up, my mum and dad realised that he was fearless and that he was not afraid of going as fast as he could. So one day they decided to help him become a real racer. That's when they took him to the special bike shop. In the shop was an amazing mechanic." "What's a mechanic?" said Phoebe. "A mechanic is someone who makes or repairs things," the little red trike explained. "He took one look at my brother and knew immediately what he could do." Phoebe's eyes were wide with amazement, and she said, "Do you think that my dad would take you and me there?" The little red trike just smiled and carried on with his story. "So, the mechanic fitted my brother with some special racing wheels, some special handlebars, and, best of all, some gears." "What are gears?" said Phoebe. "They're very complicated," said the little red trike. "And one day when you're older, I will explain all about them. But stop interrupting, otherwise I won't finish the story before you have to go in for your tea." "So," he continued, "my brother knew that he was fast, and he knew exactly what kind of little boy he wanted to ride him. You see, My brother wanted to win races and be famous. When he saw Bradley in the shop, he thought to himself, I'd like him to take me home. Just then, he saw Bradley walking towards him with his mum. And then, do you know what? Something very strange happened. All of a sudden, Bradley looked at my brother and said to his mum, I really want that one, and I know that if it could talk, it would want me to take it home. Bradley's mum was used to her son's strange behaviour, but she knew that once his mind was made up, nothing would change it. And so it was that a week later, my brother was delivered to Bradley's house in South London. Wow, that's amazing, said Phoebe. Tell me what happened next. Did they win lots of races? Well, said the little red trike, but before he could get any further, Phoebe's mum called out that tea was ready and that Phoebe should come inside and wash her hands at once. You know what, said the little red trike, I'll tell you another story tomorrow. Good night, Phoebe. Good night, little red trike, said Phoebe, and rushed inside to tell her mum about her little red trike's big brother. Yeah, said her mum, who was used to Phoebe's tall stories by now. Phoebe knew better than to argue. Instead, she ate her tea really quickly and rushed upstairs to her room. She lay down on the bed with her friends. Now listen very carefully, she said sternly. What I'm going to tell you, you must never tell anyone else. The friends all nodded vigorously. There was Green Puss with his huge grin. There was Rabbit with a little tutu and very big ears. And finally there was Foxy with his big bushy tail. Well, Phoebe continued, my little red trike has been telling me all about his big brother and a boy called Bradley, and he will tell me some more stories tomorrow. Do you all want to come with me? Puss, Rabbit and Foxy all nodded vigorously again. None of them thought it strange that Phoebe's trike was talking to her. Phoebe carried on and started telling them all about the little red trike's big brother. Just then, her mum put her head round the door and said, Who are you talking to now? No one, Mum, said Phoebe sweetly, and with a very innocent look on her face. I'm just telling Puss, Rabbit and Foxy that we have to go to sleep very soon. OK, said her mum, still looking slightly puzzled. Then she added, Night-night, Squidge, sleep tight. Phoebe glared at her friends, especially Puss, who when he heard Phoebe being called Squidge had to stop himself from sniggering, but whose grin had got even wider. Night-night, Mum, said Phoebe with a yawn as she settled herself onto a pillow with her friends around her. Soon she was dreaming about the adventure she would have on her little red trike. The end. For Phoebe, with love from Paw Paw and Gung Gung. And we wrote that in December 2015. Night night.